Hi, let us talk about the Twitter chat hour. What are the best practices? What is it all about? A chat hour is basically that, an hour to chat about something. Except in this case, we chat with a number of people online on a specific topic. It's like a business party online. It's like having a networking with no dress code. You do it from wherever you are as long as you are online and contributing. In general, the good ones have predetermined topics and a regular time. There is a big fan following. In fact, this is one of the ways to generate a fan following as well. There is a designated hashtag, one generally for the series of the Twitter chats that the organizers are having, and some more depending on the topics that are going on. In general, there are moderators and hosts that can coordinate this chat hour, especially because of the volume of questions or answers that can happen, volume of conversations that can happen at the same time. Depending on the number of audiences, you can have few moderators or even one moderator if you are just starting off with some specific people with a low volume. In fact, you can actually mention during the chat if the volume of questions increases so that people actually spend a bit more time listening to the rest of the conversation than just contributing. Of course, you cannot keep on speaking over each other in order to be listened to. Have to keep quiet for a moment. Well, there is a way in which you could track the questions as well, and depending on the durations and the number of questions, you have to understand how to make a good quality answer as well. So Q1 refers to the first question, as simple as that, and A1 refers to that particular question, and there can be various A1s from various contributors and so on and so forth. Q2 refers to the second question and so on. It's an amazing tool to network, to grow your circle. At the same time, it's an amazing tool to take instant polls, to understand segments within your customers or audiences or clients. And this actually takes to our first first tip. Well, the first thing in here is that your customer's avatar should be clear. Whom are you targeting? Is it a good idea to have different chat hours for different kinds of people? Is it a generic thing where you're actually trying to understand your customer? And because these things need to be clear before the chat hour, you need to actually go through a strategy process, a simple framework, a step-by-step way of understanding where are we providing value, to whom are we providing value, why is this a value to them. Now, once that is clear, we go to the next point. The second point is about, are your goals clear? And there are two kinds of goals I'm looking at. One is your social media strategy clear with you? What are you trying to get out of this chat hour? And specifically, why Twitter? Why a chat hour on Twitter? And these things need to be written down so that you are clear on how you are coordinating this. This is not being done for just the fun of it. In fact, those things also happen. Such chat hours also exist, but in order to have a loyal following or a continuous following, we need to have a goal which is clear. The third one is about timing. When do you do it? Again, let's say you know your customers, let's say you know their behaviors. From such things, you might be clear, are they more active during the morning rush hours? Are they more active and available to contribute? Because there is a difference between reading your chats and replying to chats as well. And you need you will have a section of people who are simply reading your chats. That's fine, but if people really want to contribute as well, are they in a position to contribute during those times? Is post lunch better? Is pre-lunch better? There are many tools available like Tweeted or Twitter Analytics, Tweet Chat, TweetDeck. In fact, many tools come and go, so be careful which one is still existing. I was looking at Chat Salad as one of the tools, but by the time this video was being presented, I checked that Chat Salad is gone to a different level, let's say. And so use these tools. And from these tools, you have to understand what is the timing, when are they most active, and then see which are the topics which are important for them. The topics should be clear even when you are doing your customer's avatar and when you are doing your social media strategy as well, or Twitter strategy. You can have a series of topics, because sometimes some of the topics, let's say venture capital is such a big topic that you cannot do just one Twitter chat hour just on that topic, but you could go a bit niche into that topic to understand what exactly are you talking about in venture capital, and then you have better quality people as well as better quality contributors. And speaking of people and contributors, before we go on to the guests and the audience part of it, I just want to give you a tip that have some of the answers ready so that you are actually contributing with quality. And speaking of answers, you should have verified answers as well. Of course, these days everybody is contributing with their own opinion as well, but especially if you're the organizer or moderator, you need to be reliable and credible to your audience, and this is why they will love you. So speaking of people are of two kinds. We have guests and audiences in this case. Now, guests are people whom you have called to contribute, and you could reserve the first 30 minutes or half of the time to ask questions to the guests, and the rest of it so that it is open to the public to ask questions as well. You could do a mix and match where just to keep up the momentum going, you could start with 5 to 10 minutes of guest questions and then open it up and move on to the next guest or something of that kind. And this is the beauty of doing it online, because your guest could be anywhere in the world. You are not actually paying for the travel or stay or anything, and you are still getting amazing contribution, because some of these guests are actually experts in their fields. You have to choose the right people. Well, speaking of experts, speaking of people, you have to distinguish to some extent about which parts of the Twitter chats are informing and which are the ones which are engaging. What are the resources that you have looked up? What is the credibility? And speaking of credibility, when someone is actually contributing with something which is really useful, give a thanks. Say some nice stuff to there, and don't copy it from someone else. Let's say there is a specific thing which was contributed by another member. Giving credit actually increases the quality of the chat, quality of people returning back next week or next month when you have the chat. So this is how the conversation actually becomes a very valuable conversation. Have all the necessary etiquette for having a good conversation, because you really do not want online etiquette to go wrong during this chat. One thing that always works, especially for Twitter, is when your contribution is quick, short and helpful. And this is where one way is when you are giving information, you're informing, and when you're engaging, you're asking for information back, you're asking for inputs back. Well, conversations are always two ways, and this is the reason you should join other chat hours as well, because you become your own expert in your own niche, your own field as well. You also should be listening to how other experts in your field are doing chat hours, what can be done better, as well as can you take some best practices from them. And this, just because this is so generic, it depends on your industry, your sectors. Retail will be a completely different sector. If your target audience are teenagers, it will be a completely different way of speaking. And this networking is far more powerful than even one-on-one networking. Again, we are looking at volume, where you will have to work on the quality aspect of it, and people do argue that one-on-one you can shake hands with one person and that person becomes a very good networker in the long run. But here you are actually tying up with some expert in another part of the world and still contributing to benefit of your business or of your work. Hence, both sides have their own benefits. Now, the last one is about recapping, making lists and following up. Again, coming back to relationship after the chat, it's not about just one-way conversation. You listen to something, you contribute something, and there might be people who missed it. Not just because they're not available, but sometimes they're in the middle of a conversation and they're out of network just because they entered the train or something like that. Now they should have some way to come back and see how was the chat, what was the content, what will be the next chat about. Put it in your newsletter, spread it in your Facebook or other social media outlets, and this is where you actually continue on the follow-up part of it. So these are my tips for having a great chat hour, and call me for the chat hour when you organize one. It will be lovely to be there. Subscribe for more details on how to make a social media strategy, how to improve the team strategy, and so on and so forth. We have a variety of things that we are covering. Step it up.